Okay, so you should now have your selecting seashells file open. I want to point out that this file only has one layer on it, a background layer, and it has a lock on it, which means that it's going to have minimal edits allowed to it. Now we're going to keep it this way because what I want to show you in this, instead of moving things to separate layers, is how when you have things on one layer, it does affect what's behind it. So we're going to stay with just one background layer. So what I want to do is I first want to focus on the different selecting tools, and the first one I want to do is the Marquee tool. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this plate down here with the shells on it. If you need to, you can hold Control or Alt and scroll, or you can use the magnifying glass to click and hold on an area, or hold Alt and click and hold to zoom in and out. Your marquee is just below your movement tool, and you have your rectangular marquee, which obviously is going to draw squares or rectangles. And if you hold Shift on your keyboard while drawing, just like in Illustrator, things will stay proportional. If you ever have a selection you don't want, you can always hit Control D on your keyboard or go to Select, Deselect. Underneath the marquee tool for rectangular, if you go within that grouping, you're going to find if you click and hold that you'll get the elliptical marquee. The elliptical marquee is going to allow you to draw a circle rather than a square. You can start in the top left and click and drag down to try and get a circle as best you can. If you let go and then you have a marquee tool still selected, you'll see when you hover over it, you have the selection of moving a marquee rather than moving the contents that the marquee is surrounding. So this means that I'm literally just going to be moving the dancing ants around. You can then adjust, and you can even use your arrow keys to nudge. This is an oval more than a perfect circle, so I want to make sure I can draw that and nudge it around. You can also, Control D, attempt to find the center of this, and instead of dragging down and to the right, you can click and then hold Alt on your keyboard while dragging. As long as you keep Alt held, you should be able to draw out from the center, knowing roughly how wide you need to be and how tall. You can then use your arrow keys to nudge around and attempt to get as much of the plate as possible. Once this is selected, we can zoom out, Alt scroll, and we are going to move that up to the B spot. Right now, if I click and drag on it, you'll see that the marquee is the only thing moving, not the plate with the shells on it. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go back, or Edit Undo. You can see that when I do that, I can then grab my Move tool instead of my Marquee tool, and I can click on this, and you'll see that when I put my cursor over it, it has scissors. I can click and drag and drop it onto this selection area, and you'll see that I can then have it placed. Now I've got a little bit of white here, which is fine. I'm gonna keep that there, or I can always go back and hit Control Z and I can nudge my marquee around before I, and you wanna be on your marquee tool, I can nudge my marquee around to try and get it exact on that plate. The most important part is once you move this up into this area, you'll notice, number one, that it cuts. So we still have some background here, but once you get rid of this selection of the marquee, you will no longer be able to move this plate. So place your plate, and then let's hit Control D to deselect. I want to show how if we zoom in on this and we select again, not Control Z, but we select again. So I'm going to go to the center, and I'm going to hold Alt and drag out. Doesn't matter if you're like exact or whatever, doesn't matter. Once you have a piece of it selected and you go to move it again using the Move tool, you'll see that when you go to move it, it's replaced what was previously there as the background, and it's cutting it. The reason it's doing this is because we are working on one layer. One layer means that when you move something on it and put it in a new location and let go of the marquee, you will no longer be able to move it and see what was behind it before because it's on the same layer. It's replaced what was previously there. And that's fine for this current situation. But just keep that in mind when you're working on one layer. Once you place something over another object in that layer, it will replace it. So I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to zoom out. And that is a quick refresher on, or a quick version of how to use the marquee tools. And we'll learn how to use more selection tools in the next video.